Welcome, everyone. You're listening to On the Road. I'm your host, David Kahn, full-time van lifer, singer-songwriter, washed-up skateboarder, and people connoisseur. On the show today, we're out in LA with up-and-coming producer, but more importantly, a great homie from Berkeley, Mark Raggio. So sit back, enjoy, and... I wanna drop...
Decent.
It's like, well, this thing's blocking it, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
It's close.
It definitely is good. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely see it. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay.
All right. Well, we are rolling.
All right.
Welcome, everybody. This episode's charting producer, all the way from the passenger seat of our van studio. Super excited to bring you guys our first guest, Mark. Mark and I have been friends since Berkeley, about 5 years now, I think. It's been amazing to watch him establish himself in LA as well as the greater music industry worldwide. And yet, no surprise with his talents, he is a truly gifted producer who has been behind many songs now. He's worked with AJ Tracy, Nessa Barrett, Tion Wade, Zaza, Aerostar, and many more as he continues to craft many upcoming songs. How old are you now, Mark? 24?
24.
Oh, shit. I was a straight guess.
Really?
Sometimes I just guess people. I don't know, and I just kind of get it. I don't know why. It's like a weird gift. But anyway, so where did it all start? You're a little guitar guy. When did you pick up guitar, and who was like your first inspiration to pick it up?
I guess my dad would be the person who introduced me to it. He
Okay.
introduced me to music at a really young age. Okay. He used to play like Grateful Dead and the Beatles and people like that. Yeah, you know, stuff. Yeah. Grateful Dead, Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, all that stuff when I was really young in the car and stuff. And then he would always, he'd always talk about, getting me a guitar one day. And then when I was in first grade, he got me one, and he got me lessons. And then I remember 2 or 3 weeks after I got my first guitar, I was in Best Buy with him, and I saw this little DVD and had 3 guitar players on it. And I was like, oh, Dad, like, can we get that? And he got it for me, and it was these 3 guys, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, and Eric Johnson. It was like this thing called G3. And anyone who's like a, guitar nerd knows about that. And I just was obsessed with the videos. Like, I would watch. It was a live performance of the 3 of them, basically. Just, they were incredible guitar players, and Joe Satriani came out. He did this song he has called Cool Number 9. I remember he just, like, was playing these chords and playing all these, like, crazy licks, which I had no idea what he was doing at the time, but just seeing it, I was like, oh, man, I gotta do that. And ever since then, I've pretty much never looked back. I've never thought about doing anything else. It was just that, and that was it.
So first grade, how old are you in first grade?
I guess
then?
6 or 7.
6 years old.
6 or 7, yeah.
Crazy. And that was when you picked up the first guitar?
Yeah.
What kind of guitar was it?
It was like I think it was called like John Taylor or something. It's like it's like a beginner's guitar.
Electric?
I put a bunch of like Star Wars stickers on it and shit, and then I put like the Eddie Van Halen like black tape on it. So like, yeah, I did a lot of shit with that guitar. I fucked it up. I still have it somewhere, but
solid.
Yeah.
And then, so then your parents, I guess, were they also musicians or artists or any way?
My dad like played a little bass and a little guitar growing up. My mom played a little piano, but no, I mean, they're not in the music business at all. They're not musicians, like, not even, they never really got into it super deep like we have, or,
right. And then you just kind of like sort of the first one randomly in the family to like really like just go all into it.
I believe I have like a great uncle who was a great like banjo player or something, who like was a musician, like he was like a professional musician.
Yeah.
I think. I don't even know his name. I just have been told that before by my grandma. So I guess that would be the musician in the family that maybe I got the bug from, but
he's out there picking and grinning somewhere.
Yeah.
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 That's awesome, man. So then you've been playing for I guess that would be from 6 to 24.
I don't know how many.
My math skills. That's 10 plus 4, 14, So another for 18 years.
18 years, yeah.
18 years.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And then, so then, how does the transition happen? This is, I feel like, my most thing that I'm interested to know. Like,
Okay.
where does the transition kind of happen, or does it even feel like a transition? Like, when you move from like just being the guy playing guitar to the guy really behind, producing the tracks in lots of different ways. I mean, because you produce from more than just guitar, you produce kind of like everything, I imagine, right? To drums and just different samples and.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it kind of, I don't know if it was like a real defining moment.
Yeah.
It was kind of just like a slow, I never liked pop music. I never liked rap music. I never liked any music that didn't have really profound and really technically advanced guitar in it for the first 5 to 10 years of my musical career or musical journey.
Right.
Like from when I was 6 till when I was, probably freshman year in high school, maybe a little earlier than that. All I listened to was like hard rock. I listened to a lot of hair metal. I listened to a lot of 80s. I listened to a lot of like new metal, like Slipknot and like, 3 Days Grace and like, kind of like hard bands like that. And I got really into that stuff because the guitar playing was like the main proponent. It was like the main ingredient in these songs.
Right.
So that's what attracted me to it. I didn't care about how it was recorded. I didn't care about how the vocals sounded. I didn't care about if it had a good hook. I didn't care about any of that. All I cared about was, does it have a cool guitar riff? Is there a guitar solo that I can learn or something? And then I heard like Bruno Mars sing when I was in like 6th grade. And that kind of perked my ears up a little bit to pop music because I thought I just was obsessed with his voice. I was like, oh my God, this guy, something about it just hit me.
Yeah.
And I slowly started to make the transition into liking pop music more. Instead of playing with like old, 70s and 80s songs, I started playing along with modern pop songs, And I think that while I was doing that, I started to kind of get the ear for production and like real songs, not just songs to show off your technical ability, slowly. It was slow. I would get into like a Maroon 5 song that had a cool little guitar riff and I'd kind of solo over that. But I'd be listening to these songs and my ear kind of started to develop for those kind of drums, those kind of tempos, those kind of melodies. And then when I was a freshman in high school and in 10th grade and 11th grade and 12th grade, over that time I started to get into rap. I started to get into EDM. I started to get into other genres of music that didn't have guitar at all. Or that featured very little guitar, but it was more tasteful. The parts were simple, but were expressive. They said a lot with a little. Started to get more into that than the opposite, doing a lot and really saying nothing. And then I went to college, went to Berkeley, where you also went and where we met. And that was where the real transition happened, I feel like, from just guitar player to producer. And by the way, and a lot of times I'm still just the guitar player. I don't like saying just because it's an important thing too.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, even to this day, that's my role because I feel like getting to be a musician in a room where there's some great songwriters, there's great producers, there's great artists, there's great drum programmers, and sometimes just being that musician with guys that are better at me than those things. It's almost like getting to be an intern or a apprentice, but you still get to be involved with the song. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So it's kind of like a cheat code to learn from these people while you're also being involved in the creation of the song. You're still producing, you're still writing the song, but you get to watch someone who's a little better than you. And then when you go and do it yourself, you kind of take that stuff. So I'm still like that guitar player guy. I think it's just evolved into, something else. And I started to kind of realize that being like a true musician is just, it's not really about your technical skill. It's not about, how fast you can play. It's not about, all the scales, while that stuff can be helpful. It's really like about how creative are you? How forward thinking are you? Are you willing to like push the boundaries? How tasteful are you in your decisions? And that's what like being a master musician, like that's the gold standard to me. So that's what I'm trying to reach now, you know what I mean? And that involves every aspect of making a song. So, and understanding it thoroughly, understanding what everyone's doing, and that's my gold standard. That's what I'm trying to get to, just really being a Zen master of all that stuff. You know what I mean? So it slowly changes, and it's still changing. My goal and my pursuit still changes, but it's always the end goal of just being a part and getting to put my little imprint on this culture of music and the culture of the world, because music at the end of the day does affect the world. So that's kind of that's still the North Star. Even when I was from 6 years old to now, that's still what it is. It just has changed the exact way I go about it. You know what I mean?
Amazing. Yeah, and that makes me think of a couple different things. I would say the first thing that perked me up with what you were just saying was something about just kind of like keeping it to a level of maybe, simplicity depending on the
Right.
song, but most, about what does the song call for. And I think, sometimes in pop music, so it's kind of like what you were saying, like you kind of got into music through, enjoying like the intricacies of like complex guitar playing.
Yes.
But then I would say, like, before I even really knew you that well, I knew you at Berkeley as like the guy that was like, oh yeah, like you want somebody that can play guitar for like pop music
Right.
well, and like what does that really mean? Like they're not going to just overplay to shred something to show you what they can do. Your name came up in that way at Berkeley even, and then
Right.
I saw it with, a couple different people, like tracks that you were on, like there would be, a quote unquote guitar solo, but it would be something more of the equivalent of like, like, I don't know, Billie Jean or something, where it's like, is that really a guitar solo in that? I mean,
Right.
yeah, I guess technically, but really
Yeah.
it's just like a really cool rhythmic little guitar hook,
Right.
and I see you go a little bit harder than that at times, but then, I'm sure you tone it back at times if you're, like you said, you're on an EDM song or something,
Right.
and then just like you said, I like the word you said, like getting to like that kind of master zen of music where it's like, like you came into it with like, this thing of like, I want to show, like what I can do, or just like, to kind of like showcase like what can be played and how, exciting it could be, but more, now you're evolving into somebody who just kind of like adds what is needed,
Right.
and then you have like a nuanced approach to it where then you can stop. It's like
Yeah.
like a great artist is somebody that can paint a picture but knows when to stop painting.
Yeah.
you know?
It's tough.
Yeah,
It's a really tough skill.
restraint, or
Yeah.
something, and it's
discipline.
I see that you have a lot of restraint, and I noticed that more than a lot of the players at Berkeley,
Oh,
like
I appreciate
a long
that.
time
Thank you.
ago, even.
I
when we were
appreciate
there.
that, man.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate you applying that restraint, because it's fascinating to hear how you went through that as
Yeah.
a child, and you sort of learned that as you went on.
I think I got really lucky that I kind of got to go through that phase when no one was like watching, or when I was young, to where I didn't have to do anything. So
Right.
it's like I kind of got to get that out of my system, because
Right.
I do think as a musician it is necessary to go down that rabbit hole of overplaying,
Oh, yeah.
overproducing, learning the craziest shit you can learn, because at the end of the day, it's always good to just have that in your back pocket if possible. You know what I mean? Not that it's necessary, but it's just another tool in the toolbox if you need it.
Yeah.
And I think that even just the fact that like, I can do some crazy thing, I feel like people in this, while I might not end up on the record, just the fact that people can see me do it in the studio or know that I can do it gives them a little more trust that whatever they're going to want me to play, I can play it. You know what I mean?
Tastefully, yeah, and,
Right,
and it's
right,
like you're just like you're kind of like a Swiss Army knife kind of guy,
I try to be.
Yeah.
That's what you try to be.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you, and can relate, for that like, look what I can do type thing. Like I remember there was a period of time, probably around when I was at Berkeley, where I was like really into riffing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there was just like kind of like this competitive element I felt at Berkeley,
Yeah.
whereas like people like, but can you sing as good as this person with as much agility as this person? Like, I guess so, but then like as I kind of got out of the into the real world of really like playing for a living, in a lot of different events, corporate or whatever, you start to realize like, hey, it's not about what you can do to show to the extreme. It's about like you just said, it's applying what and then like an amount of restraint. Like people that I think of, like I don't know as many guitar players as you do, but like I could think of like maybe somebody like Usher versus Christina Aguilera, where it's like,
Okay.
obviously they're both massively successful.
Right.
Everybody loves, a lot of people love both of them.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I would way rather listen to somebody like Usher, who knows how to riff very well, like Christina Aguilera, but, he uses restraint to really make the melody, in each individual note he chooses feel like he really chose it for a reason, as opposed to more of like a Christina Aguilera approach where it's like showing, just all of the vocal agility and just going through it to the extreme, and obviously, she's had a great career, but
Yes.
I would say, time and time again, if I put on music, I'm going to go back to somebody like Usher, where it's like, they really make me feel something through each note,
Right.
as opposed to just like shredding,
Right,
like
right,
on
right,
guitar
right.
or something.
Exactly,
It's like,
yeah.
okay, you can shred, but do you know when to shred? Because that might not be the right thing for most songs. And I think that's what really probably puts you in a position now where people aren't afraid of like what you're going to do. They know that you're going to apply all of that to their song to the best of your abilities, and you have a nuanced approach to it that really then translates into like a complete song that feels good, in all ways. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, yeah, it happens with singers. It happens with every musician, every instrument. There's the people that can do all the crazy stuff, even with drums, like the guys do all the drum
flips.
tricks. They throw up the stick and they, do all that stuff. But the guys that are bigger than just music, they're not like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if they are, they also have the ability to just do like what they need to. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think all the people that we talk about that are larger than life musicians, the singers, the guitar players that we all know and love, they had a great combination of they could show off and they would show off, but when they weren't showing off, it was also really pleasing to listen to too.
And it makes those moments then when they do show something off, like I'm thinking of like Usher when he does the one riff right before the song is over. It's like, whoa!
You're like, whoa, that came out of nowhere.
Right.
It's like I didn't even know he had that in him.
Exactly.
And he just does. You're like, whoa.
Right.
But if he did it 1 minute in, then it's like by the time you get to the end, it's like he's got nothing left.
Yeah. And then if he just does it, like you said, like 1 minute in, then it almost feels like he's got to like continue to
he's got to keep
add
building
to it.
Yeah, almost impossible.
Because then to the end, it's got to be even crazier, And it's like, that is what it kind of, to me, like, I feel like I'm picking on Christina Aguilera. That's not my goal, But like, it seems like that is something that she would run into before Usher would, is like coming out swinging, and then it's like, but then the last one's got to be like really, really shredded, ridiculous, for that to then feel like, oh, okay,
and look,
that was
some
what we
people
waited
can. There's like 1 in a billion that can do that. You know what I mean? But chances
like
are
Slash
that's
or
not
somebody,
us. Yeah, but even Slash, like think about it, like his riffs that aren't necessarily the most crazy thing ever. His riffs are iconic.
Right. Right.
Sweet Child of Mine.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah.
They might not be. You might not, study those in a textbook, but everyone knows that when they hear it, and it does something to you. It affects you. And then at the end of the song, when it's fading out, you hear him do something. You're like, whoa, I didn't even know he could do that. Slash is actually one of the best examples of that.
Yeah, he wasn't a good example for me to pick up, and that just shows I'm not as nuanced of my guitar knowledge as you. But
well, I mean, I've spent 18 years, studying it. So
right.
But yeah, so I think there's a lot of. I mean, all the ones that, like, the first names that come to mind when you think of them, I feel like they all have that ability. They all have the ability to be up here, but they might stay down here and go up here just for a second, then come back, and you're just kind of like, it's just those little nuances that make people want to listen again.
And it feels special then when they gave it to you.
Right.
Instead of just like the whole time, just like nonstop shredding. Yeah. No, it's true. So what would you say? So at this point, okay, you're out here in LA, you're making a living, you're getting to work with, some pretty successful people, and you're getting, some traction for everything you're on here, and I see it. What would you say, your goals and aspirations really are at this point? Like, where do you see yourself, if all works out the way you would like in maybe 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah.
what would you like? What would be the best scenario?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Thanks.
It's basically what I'm doing now, but just, ideally at just like the highest level, That's basically it. I mean, I love what I'm doing now and I love all the people I'm working with. I just want to, hopefully all the people I'm working with now, I can help reach even higher heights. And, hopefully through that, I can just become a person that people across the whole industry know that people can trust. And that goes from the smallest artist to the biggest artist on the planet. I just want to be able to touch every level. And, I want people to know that that's something that I can provide something to them in any room, in any scenario, that I'm going to come in and I'm going to make the record better in some way. That would be my goal. I want to just do what I'm doing, but on the absolute highest level possible. And, I want to be a part of songs that impact the culture. I want to be a part of, music history. I want to be as much of a part of it as I can possibly be while I'm here. That's what I've dedicated my life to, and that's what I'm going to continue dedicating my life to. I just want to be as much a part of the history of music in the time that I'm alive as I possibly can be.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
I feel like you're doing it.
That's my goal. My goal. I'm just climbing the ladder.
Like a Max Martin kind of Ryan Tedder figures come in and bless.
Yeah.
With the salt.
Absolutely. I think Rick Rubin is like the highest.
Who are your favorite? Let's hear some of your favorite producers. Who are your biggest influences producer wise?
There's so many. It's like it's crazy, but the main ones. Number one is Rick Rubin.
Mm-hmm.
I've listened to every interview he's ever done. I think he's the highest level of what we're talking about.
Right.
Because he doesn't even really play instruments. There's that now kind of famous 60 Minutes interview clip that's gone around of him where Anderson Cooper's like, "Do you play any instruments?" He's like, "No." And then he's like, "Do you know how to work a soundboard?" He's like, "No." And then he's like, "So what are they paying you to do?" And he's just like, my taste and my confidence in that has proven helpful for people. And that is, that's like the highest level of it, because it's not, he doesn't even play instruments. He just knows and his track record it's proven that, you know what I mean? You can't really question it at this point. So, he's kind of the high. He's also started Def Jam Records. I'd love to be a part of the business side of it one day. And not that that's necessarily I don't think I'm a business guy. I don't think that's my personality, but I do think I think that actually is a benefit to the business side, because I do think there need to be more people on the business side that have actually been on the field. Like in the NFL, you can't be a head coach if you didn't play in the league.
Yeah, or like politics,
or at least in college. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, so why are there people that are the heads of record companies and stuff that never played music, never studied it at all, never went through what we go through as artists? You know what I mean? And there are some people that haven't, that end up doing that, and they do a great job at it. There's a lot of record executives and people in the business that I love. JJ, Lindsay, Kate, Graham, Chris, when he used to work, like all these people that I've gotten to, work with in the business side that might not necessarily be musicians, but they get the concept of being an artist, being a producer, being a songwriter. They understand it. But I do think there still need to be more people who do what we do for a while, and then they're like, all right, now I'm going to do the business side, I think that's something I'd love to do at some point. But anyway, I got a little off track. Rick Rubin, Louis Bell. I think Louis Bell is the most genius human being I've ever met. For those who aren't familiar, he's done every Post Malone song basically. He's had, I think 5 or 6 diamond records at this point. He had one of the craziest runs, and he's still on that run. Just unbelievable. I think he's somebody I look up to a lot. In terms of guys right now that are doing it, Boy Wonder, Benny X, Kid Harpoon, and Tyler Johnson, they're doing all the Harry Styles stuff. I think that shit is amazing. There's so many, but I would say like Rick Rubin, Louis Bell, and probably going back, this guy Larry Carlton, who played guitar on all the Steely Dan records,
Mm-hmm.
um, and this guy Steve Lukather, who played on a bunch of Michael Jackson records. Those are kind of the main people that I look up to. It's like I would love to be a combination of like the four of those people, you know?
Mm.
Because Larry Carlton, I think, is like the best studio musician ever. I think, Louis Bell is the best, like, just engineer, programmer, like 100%er. Could start a song from scratch, finishes it, you know what I mean?
Completes it. Yeah.
Completes it. And
Mhm.
then Rick Rubin is just that guy that just has it feels like he has all the answers, but he also doesn't know anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that Zen spot.
Right.
So, like, if a combination of all those people is kind of what I strive to be, I would say.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, man. It's like it's cool that you've put the work in to really like study these people, like you're saying, like you listen to all the interviews of these people, and it's
Yeah.
like you're really putting in like the groundwork to be that. And I think that probably is a big part of it as well, is like really putting yourself into the mindset of these people
Yeah.
more than like because it's like obviously we both know people, I'm sure, from Berkeley, where it's like, okay, you go to Berkeley, even you get the degree, and then you're out in the real world, and
Yeah.
now it's like, okay,
Now what?
who's gonna hand me the thing I wanted,
Right.
And it's like, well, it's more than that, and it's like
Mhm.
it sucks because it's like, what? I mean, it doesn't suck, but like, you it's such a I'm tempted to say it's a competitive field, but in reality, I don't think it's like competitive to the way that like NFL is competitive
No.
or something
Or
like
business
that.
or
It's not in that
Yeah.
way, because then it's really like, well, you could almost make the argument that the real industry is not that competitive, because if you know what you're doing and you put it out there and you're not a dick,
Yeah.
and people, start to hear it,
Yeah.
they're going to notice.
Yeah.
And it's different than like, you just like, I don't know, throwing a football real well, out in like a public
No,
area.
it's way different.
It's like
way
there's
different.
only a handful of spots, available
Yeah.
to be on the team.
Yeah.
But like in music, there's no handful of
No,
spots.
there's
It's
no
like
set number.
your music just rises, and
Yeah.
if it performs well, then it performs well, and then everybody's gonna notice.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful to think like, well, what is the secret sauce that brings you from going to a place like Berkeley that everybody knows is like, okay, if you're going to go to music school, you might as well go to a place like Berkeley or USC,
Right.
unless you want to like waste your money or go to, just learn classical.
Right.
But then, that's not everything. You can't
No.
expect Berkeley to just like give you the tools to come out
No.
and be, have a career in the music industry.
Absolutely not.
They
no.
can't do it.
They
And I
can't do it for you. No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. I think the good thing about Berkeley, I think, is it's a great networking opportunity for everyone who's there. Honestly, that's probably my biggest regret of being there. I feel like I could have networked more. I feel like
Same.
I could have definitely been a little more proactive about meeting a lot of people.
What were you spending the majority of your time doing
I
there?
was really just locked in, like,
Yeah,
by
practicing.
myself, practicing, learning. I was learning how to use Logic at the time. I was really diving into producing. I was diving into like making songs, making loops. I was diving into songwriting. Like I would just spend a lot of time in my apartment
Mhm.
and just like locked away in there, just making beats, making songs, just making stuff.
I figured I didn't see you very often.
Yeah, you probably never saw me.
Once in a while, it's, oh shit, it's Mark.
Yeah, once in a while I'd appear,
Yeah.
but most of the time, man, I don't know. That's just the mindset I was in. I was like, I don't want to do any of this other shit. I just want to focus on my craft, And I'm not mad I did, you know what I mean? I mean, anytime you're working on your craft, it's never a waste of time, but I probably could have popped out a little more just to like, I could have gone to a couple more calf shows, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I could have gone to a couple more little parties or little listening parties or played in a couple more bands, you know what I mean? I probably
Yeah.
could have, but what are you going to do?
From the other side of it, I would say that I did the opposite. I think I chilled with a lot of people at Berkeley more than I should have practiced, and I should have been in the practice room grinding and making stuff a little bit more. But I really just kind of had fun getting to know all these people that I looked up to, and I don't regret it really either. But like it's funny because it's like kind of like the opposite, like yin and yang of like what you just said. I feel like
Yeah.
I wish I would have put a little bit more into that, because I was more on the other side of that spectrum, just like making friends with people. And it was like funny because like, I don't know, different people, like one of my best friends, like Sean Rogers, like he would just show up at my house. I didn't ask him, he'd just be at my door and be like, all right, like we can hang out.
That's how you know you're real friends with someone, though.
Yeah, they just start showing up.
They don't even have to say anything.
It's like, what's up, dude? Just
that's
like,
how you know,
yeah.
That's
But I was just such a fan of him, like in his singing. He was like, I think he was just like on deck for The Voice or something, but then they didn't pick him like as like one of the final people. But like he's really just like one of the world class vocalists that I remember at Berkeley. Like, okay, you're kind of like a lot better than everybody else here, So it was like, I love that he would just show up and wanted to just chill and jam and sing and all that. And like, I'm like, oh, my homework, but like, Sean's here,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that's really important, man. Like at the end of the day, we don't go to Berkeley to like do homework, like I know that's part of it. It's school, you know what I mean? But we really go to get to experience, because here's the thing. The one thing about Berkeley is you'll never be ever in an ecosystem full of that much musical talent again.
I felt it.
We never will.
I felt it.
Honestly, I didn't feel it at the time.
Yeah.
I kind of was just there, and I was like, yeah, everyone's great. You know what I mean? I didn't really. But now being out here, I'm not saying everyone isn't great out here, but it's like there's more aspects of the business and hustling and networking and going to these industry parties and going to the studio and trying to make a great song. It's like you're not thinking about, oh my God, the level of musicianship with this person and this person and this person and this person and this and this and this and this. And we walk into some random rehearsal and someone's, playing trumpet and it's like, sounds incredible. And then you're down the hall and then someone's, in like Stevie Wonder harmony class. It's just like, you're never going to be around, plus with all the professors, and you're never going to be around that much musical knowledge and talent of just pure technical skill. Again, it just won't ever happen. And, that's something too, if anyone watches this that goes to Berkeley or is going to go to Berkeley, like that's definitely something like to take with you. It's just like you're never going to have that. So soak up as much as possible. I just wish I had soaked up more of it. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like I very, agree with exactly how you said that. It's like all of these people to such a high caliber are like, they feel like they're literally just like at your disposal. Yeah. And then like maybe like you're saying like you almost just got numb to it and you're like, I'm gonna just make stuff, because these people are here and they're gonna be here. But then it's like you get out to a place like LA and it's like, it's not like there's not even better people here, but it's like they're not just at your disposal,
right? The
way that Berkeley, it's okay, I'm gonna walk to the caf. And then, like, what's that kid in there? Like, hey, Jesus Molina. I just remember, like, I randomly sat down. I'm like, this kid's eating, lunch by himself. I'm gonna sit here and eat with this guy.
Right.
And I didn't know he, like, you're like, oh, turns out he's possibly the best piano player that I've ever seen in the entire world.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's like eating lunch by himself, and I was just trying to be nice.
No, it's crazy. Yeah, that's the crazy thing about it. Like, you'll never be that close with those. Like, I mean, you could be, but that amount of it. At once, right there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Domi, Salem. Like, I remember eating lunch with Salem, and then, like, I found out, like, a year later, she's like, oh, #1 song in the world.
Yeah. I mean,
upstaged the WAP for, like, an hour, or something. And I'm like, I ate lunch with her, and just... Yeah. You just didn't expect.
You never expect it.
I don't know. Just everybody seems like, casual, and it's, like, almost like a weird, like, mental delusion, It's like, where it's like, well, these are just my peers, like we're all in it together. And it's like, I don't know, nobody really is that special in here. But then it's like, after the time goes by, you're like, actually, there were some really, really special people there.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then it's like, makes me, kind of like you're saying, like, I'm glad that I was at, a decent amount of CAF shows. And I did go to the CAF a lot, and I tried to, like, sit and eat with different people. And to this day, like, I feel like if I had to look at, like, why... This is like turning into like a Berkeley, promotional video. But like, what was Berkeley like? Why was it special to me? It really came back to like a handful of people. Like I think of my friend Josh, guitarist. I don't know if you know Josh Lampkin.
I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah, like dude, he just came up to me one time and he's just like, hey man, like I heard you from like I don't know Gunner or somebody. He's like, you're really sick. Like let's fucking make something. And I was
Yeah.
like, dude, you're really sick. Like, I would love to make something with you. And it's like, we're still like kind of like best friends. And
Yeah, it's
he's
great.
in Nashville playing like full time, but like, he'll just like send me something, that's like really great that I didn't even ask for, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, this is the reason I went to Berkeley, to meet people like this, that it's just
Right.
like sends me like a little nugget that he knew I would love, but like I didn't even ask him for it, and it's like, so that's like, I think about Berkeley almost in the same way that I think about LA, where it's like I'm sure there's people that like will never go to Berkeley and will never go to LA, but like are full-time career musicians, and it's just like, for those people listening, like, why is Berkeley special? Why is LA special? And it's just like, I think it's just like you said, like Berkeley's a place where it's like all of these people to a ridiculous caliber, just kind of almost just at your disposal at all
Yeah.
times. And then LA, it's almost the same thing, where it's like I hear a lot of people where they're just like, oh, but like you don't need to be there. The internet these days, and it's like, what I've learned from living, like, how long have you lived in LA now?
My whole life.
Oh, you're from?
I'm from LA.
Okay, yeah, I forgot that you're from
Yeah.
here. I'm still like pretty green. I feel like I'm just approaching a year now
Okay.
of being here. Like what I see from my understanding, like living, like I'm from Orlando and then I lived in Nashville after living in Boston, and yada yada. Like
Yeah.
what I see is the difference, the special sauce about LA is the human capital, is like
Yeah.
the people that are here
Yeah.
randomly, like you just walk into a place and you see somebody, and then like, or whatever, even on the internet, it's like, okay, you're going to make the argument of the internet. So if you're on the internet and you're doing okay and you're in LA, other people that are big in LA will see you on the internet that you're in LA, and then they'll reach out to you because they see you're in LA.
Right.
So it's
Exactly.
like, to literally just exist here and put yourself out there to some extent, obviously it's like ridiculously expensive to do that, to
Yeah.
even exist here, but if you can afford it,
Yeah.
that to me is the special sauce of like existing here.
I think the thing about LA is and honestly, maybe I'm not the one to make this statement since I've lived here my whole life, but I don't imagine that it's like this in other places where you could just be, I mean, this has happened to me countless times. You could be just walking down the street thinking, oh man, I got nothing to do today. Or you could be about to go to bed, and all of a sudden you get a phone call, and all of a sudden your whole day is changed. And I don't know, sometimes it's a life-changing day. Sometimes it's just a big step day. But the fact that, oh shit, you want me to pull up? Oh, you're with so-and-so? Damn, okay. I guess I'll head over there. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I'll be there in an hour. It's like if you're in, some random other city, you know what I mean? That's just not a possibility. It's just not. You know what I mean? And so that's why I think it's important, even if you don't live here, to make trips out here. Like I have a lot of homies I work with that are out in the UK, and the UK music scene is great too. But when they come out here for like a month, and they get all these opportunities because they know people from the internet, and then they come out here and like all of a sudden they're in rooms with this person because they just came out here. You know what I mean? So I feel like even if you don't live here, you have to make the effort to come out here at least once a year, or twice a year if possible, for like an extended period of time, because every time I meet someone that comes and visits, they seem like they have some crazy trip, something crazy happens to them. You know what I mean? And then they go back home and they can kind of, reevaluate and get ready for the next one.
Yeah.
So I think even if you don't live here, it's worth it just to come out.
Yeah. Kind of like line up some things
Yes.
for a trip. And then, yeah, it makes me think like what you just said. It's like, okay, well, with what you just said, kind of like you get hit up from the human capital, but to me, like as a bystander, like listening, is like, well, that's human capital hitting up you as human capital, and
Right.
you being in LA together
exactly.
is what leads you to that magic that you're talking about
That's
in the beginning.
other thing.
So that's like, some firewood calls you up a spark, and then
Right.
like you go to a place where there's like gasoline, and
Yeah.
it's just like, then you throw it all together, which is
Right.
LA. There's the campfire, and it's just like,
Absolutely.
and then that's like where it all, gets put together. But it's like, if you're, I don't know, if you're in Nashville even, or somebody else is in like the UK, it's like, yeah, you can still make stuff, obviously people do that a lot these days, but there's just, in my opinion, and I'm curious like what you would think, but I imagine you would probably agree, is like, there's nothing like that, like, hey, so-and-so's here, he needs you to come down here,
Yeah.
and then before you know it, you're in a room of like these big heads,
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, then it's just like, now it's like you got like just a bunch of these heavy hitting people
Yeah.
bouncing things back and forth.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you've created the magic that you're looking for, in a way that like wouldn't really be as cohesive, but even that is like underselling it, because it's like, I feel like, when you're passing things back and forth from the internet, you're not achieving that synergy of having everybody together in the room.
Right.
Where then it's like, it can be an idea and then it can be done in like 30 minutes, depending on who you have there and how, like,
true.
Just
Yeah, man.
you're supposed to email and shit back and forth, and days later,
no,
you're like,
it's
I didn't
crazy.
get that stem, dude. Like, or
and then
whatever.
it's like, oh, well, I'm in a session. I'll get that to you tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, and then, all of a sudden, you have an emergency. And then it's just things. I always try to do shit in person. I always try to be like, let's just pull up in person. Let's just do it in person, because we can knock something out in 30 minutes in person that might take a week.
Yeah.
Online.
Or never get done.
Or never even happen.
Yeah.
But, there's value to online relationships too.
Right.
I mean, like that AJ Tracy song, which is my biggest song so far, that came from the internet. I've never met AJ Tracy, and I've never met Yos, who's like one of the other producers on that song, who made that shit happen.
They found you.
But he knew AJ.
Mm.
So it's like he had that personal connection.
Mm-hmm.
Both are very valuable. But I feel like to really, really, really succeed, I feel like you do need both. You need that in person,
Right.
and you have to make sure you're, planting seeds elsewhere.
Hybrid.
Yeah, hybrid
Right.
of it. But yeah, you said something really interesting that I can't remember. Oh yeah, just the idea of, it's so crazy when you're out here that you could just, like I said, you could just have a normal day, and then all of a sudden you get one text and the whole course of your day can change, and now you're doing something. It's very exciting. It's very exciting, and it's, yeah, you all of a sudden you're in a room with, oh wait, that guy, like, oh wait, he did that song. It's like, I love that song. It's like, oh, I know that guy, like, or it's like this artist. It's like, man, I've been such a fan of this artist, and now all of a sudden I'm just in the room with him, like,
Yeah.
I'm just talking. You know what I mean? He's just another human being. I'm just another human being. And like that feeling it's incredible, man. Like it's one of the reasons we do this. You know what I mean? To be able to work with people that you listen to, and to be able to be in a room with someone that you would listen to, whether you were working with them or not, is like the greatest compliment to your artistry that you could possibly get. And that's just something that, when you're out here, you have the potential to experience that.
100%. Yeah. And it's like, well, then, before I forget my thoughts, so AJ didn't know you. The other producer knew. Where did he find you? Did he find you from the internet?
Well, that song came about because I have one of my very close collaborators. He goes by Ri-Fi. It was during the pandemic. We were just making stuff kind of on FaceTime, and the initial seed idea for that song came about. We were just making stuff on FaceTime. I pulled out my guitar, I played the chords, and I recorded it. I sent it to him. He added some stuff, and that was just the initial seed idea for it. Didn't really think much of it. And then Ryan is he's very proactive on the internet. I actually learned that from him. If not for him, I probably wouldn't be as proactive as I am, but he's very good about hitting people up, getting networking. He's really good at that. So he DM'd this producer named Yos, who had done a bunch of Pop Smoke stuff. That's the initial reason that he DM'd him, because Ryan and I both loved Pop Smoke, and he had produced a couple of our favorite Pop Smoke songs. So Ryan DM'd him. He's like, yo, man, like, we have a bunch of ideas for you. Like, would love to, like, send some over. And Yos, was nice enough and cool enough to respond and be like, yeah, send them over, And, again, this story is one in the, thousands of DMs that never got a response.
Right.
Never got, and even if you did get a response, nothing ever came of it. This happens once in a blue moon, this scenario. You know what I mean? This doesn't happen often, but that's why it's worth still trying, because it could. It was the first beat he ever made with us. It's the first thing he ever did. We sent him it. He picked that one little guitar idea. He added drums to it and sent it to AJ Tracy. It's the first thing ever. He sent it to AJ Tracy. He said AJ Tracy got on it. And then we didn't think about it again for a year. And then he's like, oh, that song's going to be on the album. We were like, okay, cool. Again, didn't really think about it. Then all of a sudden, the day before the album comes out, he's like, I'm dropping a video for this song. And then it was his single, and it was the whole thing. And it was just this crazy moment for me.
Like, oh yeah.
It was like the first time I really like was a part of a song that like a lot of people knew.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were listening to, you know. And it was, you know, it was crazy. And that was all just came from Ryan being the hustler that he is and just DMing Yos. And it just, the first thing we ever did just turned into that. You know, now it's a gold record.
It's number 1 in the UK, right? On Spotify?
It went, yeah, the week it came out, it was the number 1 song on Spotify UK.
It's fucking crazy.
Which is awesome.
It's insane.
It was awesome, but yeah, again, just from a DM, but there's been thousands of DMs that both Ryan and I have sent that we either never got a response to or they responded and we sent some stuff and they probably never listened to it, or even if they listened to it, they're like, you know, and then it just, so that's why it's a numbers game, you know, and the other thing I was going to say about the LA thing is half of this job, maybe even more than that, is just showing up, like just being there. Like there's songs that I've been a part of, and especially some ones that are going to start coming out here soon, that truthfully, the only reason that I really got to be a part of these songs is just because I showed up that day. You know what I mean? I might not have had my best stuff. I might not have played the best thing I could have ever played that day. I might not have, you know, wowed everybody in the room with my insane ability right in that moment. But because I was there at the right time, and because I just show up every day and to every opportunity I could get, I just got to be a part of this song because I was there. And, like, the energy in the room and the frequencies, we all got attuned to the same one, and it just, we matched up and we made this song. You know what I mean? And the song turned out to be something really good. And there's been thousands of days that I've done, or not, maybe not thousands, but hundreds, almost thousands at this point, but days where you do the same thing and it's forgotten. It just sits on the computer forever. But that's why you just have to show up, because, you know, the more you do it, the more you'll get those days where just by showing up, just by being in that room, I got to be a part of a song. I got to be a part of a song with a great artist that's going to come out and, like, you know, make me money. It's going to be able to add to my resume. It's going to help build my career. You know what I mean? Just because I showed up, you know, I don't have to show up and necessarily play the best thing I've ever played ever right then. It's not always about that. Sometimes it's just about being there and just playing, like, something simple that just works in the moment, but you were there. You know what I mean? You happened to be the one in the room that day. Because there's songs I played on, man, and there's gigs I've done where a bunch of people at Berklee could have, almost every other guitar player at Berklee probably could have done exactly what I did. You know what I mean? Some of them probably even better. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, but because I just am so focused on this, and I just got to be in the room that day. And other people will get to be in the room on other days for their moments, you know what I mean? And that's why that competitive thing is just pointless, especially in this music shit, because everyone has their thing, everyone has their time, everyone will get their time as long as they keep their head down, you know? And, like, the other crazy thing about it is that there's people that think that I am, like, at some crazy level, but in my head, I'm looking at the people that are way above me like they're at the crazy level. I'm not doing shit, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't think that'll ever change. You know what I mean?
Right.
I could become the number one producer in the world, and I'll be like, yeah, but I'm still not Quincy Jones, though. You know what I mean? I'm still not Rick Rubin. You know what I mean? I don't have my own studio yet. I got to get like them. And then I might get my own studio and then, like, be like, yeah, but they have their own record company, and they develop this artist and this artist and this artist. It's never going to end. But that's, like, the best part about it, is that it never ends. It's just every day you get to do something awesome that you love. And whether it becomes the biggest song in the world or it never comes out, you still got to be a part of something that day. And, like, that's it. Like, that's kind of the dream. Everything else is kind of out of your control. Like, the dream is kind of just being able to do that every day. You know what I mean?
You're planting out kind of like all the seeds.
Exactly. And
you know?
and then just let it happen.
Forget about
just
it.
Let it go.
And then it's like, oh,
hard
shit,
to do.
That seed that I threw out, you know, it's sprouting. Oh,
it's
shit,
sprouted.
It's a fucking tree now.
Yeah, it's
a
huge tree. Didn't expect that one to be it.
Yeah.
I just planted like 100 seeds and one of them grew. You know what I mean? And you just need that one that grows. You know, you just need one. You just need one. And, you know, I feel like that's like an epiphany I've kind of had recently about the music business, is like, if you just show up and love it every day and just be grateful that you get to do this every day, the rest of the stuff will fall into place if you just, like, let it, you know? And I'm seeing that mentality start to slowly work for me. You know what I mean?
You're on to something there that definitely, I feel like I've evolved through. I've called it like, I feel like when I was at Berkeley, what I would have called it, like looking back now, is like almost like a spirit of desperation, where it's like I feel like, oh, there's all these people that are like better than me,
Yeah,
and like I gotta like make something happen now
Right,
because
right.
time is running out.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's like you get out in the world, and it's like now, I have an agent, and it's like I just have gigs booked until like the end of the year, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well then now what? Like, well, I guess I want to start working on my band. It's like, okay, well now I got some stuff with my band. It's like, well, what else now? And that's like all these things that I was worried that were, if they were going to work out, now they're happening. And it's like, kind of like you said, you plant the seeds, you show up, you keep taking a step forward every day, and then they all kind of work themselves out. But it's like somewhere along the lines, most people like just give up, and they don't just keep like showing
And it's
up.
easy to.
Yeah,
I've
it feels
I've
stupid
thought
at
about
times,
it before.
Like, well, you don't have like my dad was a professional musician, so it's like
Okay.
it's real easy for me to like call my dad, or my dad calls me, and like I talk to him about what I'm doing, and he's like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me, and that's good. Like, I have a good friend of mine who I used to sing with in the college I was going to before Berkeley, who I know he's just in finance now or something, and I know
Right.
both of his parents were like in finance. And like I remember going to his house sometimes, you could feel the energy from his parents. They just, everything we did, it just felt like to them like a joke. Like it was
Right.
like it didn't seem like it was like, oh, okay, that's cute, But
No,
like,
I
how are
mean,
you guys gonna make a living?
That happens, man.
Because they don't
like,
get it, they don't understand.
Yeah.
But like my dad got it, so
Right.
it was a little
Well, that's
easier
a
for
blessing.
me, to like, like, oh, I don't have to prove it to my dad that like
Yeah.
this is gonna make sense down the road because he gets it. But
Right.
it's like that's tough when you
I'm
don't have
super
somebody
grateful
like that.
for my parents, like
Yeah.
that they were.
They believed in you.
They yeah,
Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely believed in me.
Seems like a lot, like that's definitely a huge part of it, and to not have that is tough.
Hard, super hard, man.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of examples of people who didn't have parents that believed in them that still
Still
were
pushed
incredibly
through.
successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there's many. So but that's but there's always going to be people that don't believe. I mean, dude, I mean I could give examples like sometimes I'll see people out. I'll like run into someone that doesn't do music, knows nothing about the music business. That's
Right.
totally cool. That's fine. And, they'll say something to me like, hey, man, he's like, are you still playing guitar? And I'll be like, what? Like, am I still playing guitar? It's like, that's like asking me, like, do I still breathe air? Like, do I still eat food? Like, it's like the equivalent
It's
of
literally
asking
like-
me that.
Yeah.
But when someone asks me, it's like, at first I'm like, what? Like,
They're just trying to bond with
of
you.
course, I totally understand, but it's like,
It comes across as
it
like,
comes across
dude,
as so like,
you don't pay attention to anything I do, and it's almost like a slap in the face.
it's a slap in the face, like,
You
oh,
know?
I guess I'm not doing enough for this
that you
person
can
to
tell,
understand.
or anything.
Right. Like, I'm not doing enough so that this regular person who's
Right.
not doing music doesn't understand that, like, obviously I still play guitar. Like,
Right.
I'm, killing it or whatever.
Right,
Like, I'm
right.
doing this and that. And it's comments like that have gotten to me before. I'm like, man, like, is what I do that insignificant that, like, no one could even, like, understand that I do it every day? But at the same time, it's like, you have to kind of just understand that those people, like, they mean really well. They're not trying to make you feel
No.
like that. You know what I mean?
No, they're
Someone-
trying to bond with you, probably.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's like, you're not the kind of guy that's like, you don't post something like 3 times a day.
Right, I'm not a super. I'm
Yeah.
not, and they might not even follow me on social media. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they might not. So it's like, it's not really about them. It's more about me being like, oh man, like, am I actually just a complete loser? Like, do I not have anything going on? But it's like that's not the right mentality either. It's just like, I don't really understand what they do. It's like they don't really
Yeah.
understand what I do.
Right.
And like, I know that I'm on the right path. I
Yeah.
know the steps I'm taking and where it's going to lead. Someone who isn't on my path, it probably looks like, to some people, might not look like it.
Yeah.
You might
It
not
looks
look
like you're crazy.
Looks like I'm not. Like,
oh,
what are you
poor
doing?
Mark, he's delusional
Right.
out here. He thinks he's gonna,
Right.
But it's like, who's saying that? Like my dad's friend that's like an electrician. Like I had a conversation with him over like the holidays where like we were out like at some bar, and I was telling him about like what I was doing, and like kind of just telling him about like how about like I'm like just been busy with and got a lot of gigs like booked, and he's like, oh, okay, well, if you ever need like a place to stay or like
Right.
a job, like you could let me know, like
Right.
like I could take you on as an apprentice or something,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the electrician business. And it's like, I just try to like explain to you like how it's like it's kind of going good, but it's like you said, it's like to somebody that doesn't know anything like what I'm talking about.
If you're
It
not
probably seems like volatile and scary to them because they don't get it.
They don't
It's
understand that,
not
and
this
that's
fault.
it's totally fine. They don't get it. You know what I mean? Like people go different paths. People want different things
Yeah.
out of life. You know what I mean? And I think, it's just like if you're not working with Adele or Taylor Swift
Yeah.
or a household name that
Right.
they can really understand,
Right.
you're not doing anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, that's good for you. Like, da-da-da, you know what I mean? And a lot of the times, also being a producer, songwriter, people don't really understand what that means.
Right.
I'll say, like, yeah, I play. It's like, oh, well, are you in a band or like, oh, you're a producer, so you work on the business side. It's like, no. It's like, and then I always go like, when you're listening to a song and there's all that music behind the vocal, like that's what I create the music behind the vocal. And they're like, oh, what? Okay, I thought the artist did that. It's like, people don't understand. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. Because I know one day I'll just be able to say like, oh yeah, I produced this song. And they're like, oh, I know that song. Oh, you must be like the coolest dude on the planet. And I won't be the coolest dude. I'll still be not the shit. I'll still be wanting more out of this. But they'll think that I have everything just because I did this one song that they know.
Right.
Like you're crazy until it works, and then you're a genius. That's just how it is. You know what I mean?
Once the momentum kicks in, yeah.
Exactly. Once you do something that people know about without you having to explain it to them,
Right.
then you're like, oh, he's cool. You know what I mean? He's done this and that.
I get it now.
And
yeah.
it happens, it's happened on like smaller scales, like with the AJ song. If I meet someone like from Australia, because that song was like #1 on the radio in Australia. I met someone from Australia the other day, and I told them I worked on that song, and they were like, what? It's like, bro, that's a crazy, I can't believe you did that. But like if I told somebody walking down the street, people have no idea who
like
AJ
your mom's
Tracy
friend
is.
or something,
No idea who AJ Tracy is.
Like,
He's some UK rapper. No one knows who that is. They'd be like, oh, okay, I haven't heard of him.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's like, oh, good.
Right.
And it's like, again, they're just trying to be nice. They don't get it. It's totally chill. I totally get it. I understand that now. I think for a while I took it personal.
Yeah.
But that's just some insecurity of feeling like, damn, like maybe I'm not like doing enough, or I'm not cool yet, or I'm not the shit. You know what I mean? And
I get it. Because when my dad's friend was saying that to me, it was like it was a weird moment. It was like I felt strongly. I just explained to him why things are going well, and I'm like feeling good, and like things are stable and better than they used to be, and like his face, everything he followed after was like, oh no, like are you gonna be okay?
Right.
Like do you need help?
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, but it's like he's an electrician.
Right.
So it's like, how is he going to understand it?
It'd be like if he was like, what'd you do today? And he was like, yeah, I went to so-and-so's house and I replaced the something converter, and I took out the like AC unit, and I like replaced this, and like it was a crazy job. Like no one's ever done that in electrician history before. I pulled a crazy move, and like the only other person that's done that is this super other famous electrician. You know what I mean? Like that you've never heard of, but like he's a god in the electrician community, and you're like, so you did your job
today? You did work. Okay.
It's like you did work. I don't I mean, it wouldn't mean
it wouldn't make
anything
sense to us, right?
You know what I mean? So, but a lot of people who are electricians they're not as passionate about what we do like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there are some electricians who get a lot of fulfillment out of their work every day, which is awesome. But that's all we want too.
Right.
But there are also probably some that just do it because that's just what they fell into, and that's what they need to do to make money and support their kids and their family. And I can never hate on that. That's that's like you're just being a human. You're being a good human, being a good family man, being a good father, and that's super important. But a lot of people will never understand the joy and passion that we get out of doing what we do every day. You know what I mean? And how it might be amazing to us, and we can see, oh, I just did that. If I keep doing that, I will take another step to where I'm trying to go. And if I can continue at that level, I could meet this person and do this song and play this gig, and that could give me this step to the next level, and so on and so on. We see it in our head. Mm-hmm. You see how getting a bunch of gigs is helping you. You see how doing this is going to help you. But you can't blame someone else for not seeing what you see in your head. You'll never be able to actually explain it to somebody. It's almost like trying to describe a musical idea without playing it. It's like you could say, oh, I want the bridge to do a key change and the tempo shift, and I want to go to this chord, and we should talk about this in the bridge or whatever.
Yeah.
And someone would be like, that sounds terrible. And then you play it for them, and they're like, oh, that sounds good.
Right.
It's like, no, it's like trying to do that.
Yeah.
How could someone understand it if you're not playing it for them?
You don't feel the beat. Like if you're a baby and like
Right.
a 4 on the floor comes on and like a baby starts dancing, it's like doesn't matter if you're like, all right, listen, baby, like we're gonna come in with the beat. It's gonna hit this double time. Like
Right.
the baby's like doesn't understand English.
No.
They feel the song.
Exactly.
And then the song comes on and the baby's like,
Oh.
I'm moving now.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even plan to be moving, but we're moving.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, to some degree, like, regardless of how well you get in language, from that moment, like, how does it feel? How does the song feel? And then coming back to like just like your specific talents and like why I feel like you're kind of in this position where it's like I'm sure a lot of people would want to be exactly like what you're doing from like Berkeley. And
Right.
I know like
Definitely.
I've been trying to. It's like it's the combo of all of those things, making an effort to explain it in the way that you're saying, even though it might not necessarily be easy for everyone to like decode it, still having the ability to somewhat explain it, and then like have the nuanced ear to like see like what is kind of current right now soundscape wise,
Right.
and then be able to communicate that then through the instrumentation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then having people know you. So it's like there's a lot of pieces
There's
of the puzzle.
so many pieces to the puzzle, man, and it's like, at the end of the day, the other thing I've realized, man, that honestly is what's kept me sane throughout all this is, like, I do it for me, man. Like, I don't do it for so and so's approval. I don't do it for,
right.
my mom's
To be
friends'
famous,
approval.
yeah.
I don't, what I mean? Like, that's not why that's not why when I saw that video when I was 6, that's not why I was like, ooh, my mom's friend's going to think I'm cool if I
No.
do this. Like, no. You know what I mean? I did it because it spoke to me. It makes me happy every day. It gives me
Right.
a feeling that, like, not much else can give me. You know what I mean? Like,
Definitely.
the only other thing that's ever given me a feeling like that is just, like, being in love or something like
Yeah.
that. Like, it's like, it's a human emotion that you get to experience every day, of like the joy of being able to create something on a daily basis. Like, that's kind of all it needs to be. Like, everything else is out of your control. Like, it just is, man. Like, it's out of your control. And like, I have an inner knowing now that I know that all these people, they might not understand it now. They'll understand it one day. And even if they don't, okay.
Doesn't really matter even.
Like, at the end of the day, I love what I get to do, and
Yeah.
that,
You're making a
means
living
I've,
from
I've
it,
already won, man. Like,
Yeah.
I've already won.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of it.
So many people out there in the world, that like like you were saying, like just have to do jobs that they don't really like because they have a family, and we're both just incredibly, I'm not like super religious, but like lack of a better word, like blessed,
Very.
To get to do something that like I truly feel like, at this point in my life, it's amazing to realize like I don't have to do anything I don't like to do.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
Literally ever.
Yeah.
And that's just like, wow, what a magical thing to get to do that. Like I used to work like Uber,
Right.
and do things like that, like slave labor, like what felt like, to like a degree. And like now it's like, I don't know, just to get to like.
But there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
No. And there are moments where I actually still enjoyed it. Like had like really nice conversations
Yeah.
with people, sometimes. But also like had to pick up like some sketchy guy for a drug deal at like 3 a.m. I'm like, all right, should I just leave? Should I call the
Right.
police? Like,
Yeah.
so I'm like that. Those are the reasons I'm glad that I don't have
Yeah.
to do that anymore. But one more thought I had too is just like it's kind of like a beautiful thing that like maybe I would be surprised if people maybe automatically knew this about you, and just like as somebody that like actually knows you, I think it's really cool to see that like you have such a strong foundational like. I hate the word vibe, but like vibe of like humble, like like humility, where like you're not like I don't know, like Kanye West or somebody that's just like I am God, like
Right.
like you're like you literally like and like I identify with that, where it's like people will call me like like some like like a little kid will like fan out to me on the internet. It's like, wow,
Right.
that's crazy, because like I literally just was thinking like I'm a piece of shit
Right.
today, like
Yeah.
I'm not like really even that good. But this little kid's like telling me about how he changed his whole life, and like now he's like getting into singing because of me, and
Right.
it's like, well, shit, like guess I am doing something, you know? And
exactly.
it's like,
but that's the thing.
But your mom's friend or the electrician doesn't get it, you know? And
right.
it's
So
like,
it's like you can't focus on that.
No,
you know,
no.
like it's just at the end of the day, it's just I keep saying at the end of the day, I got to stop saying that.
Whatever.
The point is
Yeah.
that we at the end of the day we do it for ourselves,
Right.
you know, and that is
It's where it needs to start, right?
yeah, it starts with ourselves, and then at the end of it, it's for everyone else, and what everyone else thinks about it is for them. It's not for us. You know, once we've again, this is all Rick Rubin stuff that I've listened to in interviews and stuff, and
It's cool, good stuff though. You know,
it's really, you know, it's helped me, you know what I mean, because it's just a really good like foundation to come from when it's like I have very little control over this, and my best opportunity to do what I love and to be a part of the things I want to be a part of is just to show up and do it every day. You know, there's going to be heartbreak. There's going to be songs that don't ever come out. There's going to be moments that you think are your big break and they're not.
And then they just, you know, didn't use it or something.
Exactly.
You know?
It's happened to me so many times, man. Like, oh, it's, you know, and I don't know if I'll ever totally get over it, but you kind of just walk. You just keep walking. You just keep running the marathon, and you kind of just know that eventually that 1 in a million chance works if you just keep doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just keep pounding away. And I'm on that journey right now. I'm still waiting for my 1 in a million moment, you know what I mean? But along the way, I'm collecting some really great moments. You know what I mean? They might not be 1 in a million moments, but they're maybe 1 in 100,000 moments. You know what I mean? Like, I get to be in rooms that very few people get to be in. You know what I mean? Whether that ends up like turning into something or not.
Well, it is, you know. I mean, it is turning into something. Like,
Right.
It's funny because like you're probably like me in that way, where it's like you want to downplay it to the level, you know, where it's like almost like not accurate. It's like you are on a path that is like feels to me like as an outsider like you're on a direct path towards where you want to go.
Right.
It's not like you're like veering even like a little off to the sides. Like you're doing the thing you want to do. You're making, you know, a living doing the thing you want to do, working with, you know, the better people that are available to you.
Right.
And that, you know, that's you're doing it, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like it's funny because like you're still like, oh, I haven't hit the big song yet though, you know. But it's like, yeah, but like you're doing the thing, you know.
Yeah,
and
for
like
sure.
that's the beauty of it, you know. It's
And
like,
I know one day I will have the big song, and hopefully it's a lot of big songs, and
Yeah.
I probably won't feel much different than I
Right,
feel now.
right.
You know, like it'll help me. My life will probably change a little bit for sure. Like I'll probably get into more rooms. I'll probably not have to explain myself as much to people. I'll probably be a little more respected throughout the community,
Right.
throughout the industry, and that'll be awesome. I'll probably make more money. I'll probably be able to buy nicer things. Probably, you know what I mean? All those things will be great. But my internal feeling on a daily basis after the smoke clears and the dust settles of all that, I probably won't feel that much different than I feel now. And that's why it's kind of like, you know, until that happens and you know, until I get to that point of that big song, or I get to that point where I own that studio, I'm a part of that record label, or, you know, I get to work with that artist that I've been dreaming of working with my whole life, I may as well enjoy the ride there. I may as well not, like, feel like, oh, my God, like, I don't have this yet. I'm a failure. I'm a loser. Because, you know, I have the tendency to fall into that thinking for sure, but
I do too, man.
I think the older I've gotten and the more I do this thing every day, the more I realize that the reward is in the doing of it. That is it. That's like the thing, is that I get to do it every day. The other stuff, it'll work itself out. It'll happen when it's supposed to, how it's supposed to. I'm just trying to not control everything so much, because I have a control freak attitude sometimes. You know, that's kind of part of being a producer. You know what I mean?
I get it, man.
But you can't control life.
No.
You just can't. You know.
Yeah, and I feel that so hard, man. Like it just makes me think like of a bunch of different like ways I can apply to like me. But it's like funny because like, you know, you're a producer and I'm really a singer. It's not we have overlap, but it's different. Like, you know, like and this is kind of like maybe like a more contextual question, but like comes to mind like I want to ask you is like I was listening to that podcast with I was telling you about before we started, and the writer is.
Yeah.
And I was listening to this guy Ross interview the guy he like writes all the songs for Imagine Dragons.
Okay.
And something that I really got out of that
I gotta
interview.
listen to this podcast.
Oh, it's great, man. It's something I got out of that interview, and like he interviews like probably Rick Rubin on there, and stuff like that. Maybe you've already heard it, but yeah, what he said, and I'm curious if this would apply to you because like, man, I had to stop the podcast and like write this down because I was like, oh shit, dude. Like, I get into moments sometimes where I'm writing, and it's like maybe I'm writing almost like from the position of being a producer, where it's like I'm not really a producer in any way, like the way that you are, but I've produced with friends here and there. But then it's like now that I'm in a position where like I have my own band, and it's like they're looking at me to be the front man. It's like, well, what does that really mean in this scenario? And what the guy said that spoke to me from Imagine Dragons, I think his name was like Dan Reynolds or something, but he's like, it really comes back to like, he talked about how he's written like thousands of songs since he was a kid, and it's just like what he loves to do. But like what really worked for him and feels like the most important part, where it made me feel like it almost clicked when I was listening to this yesterday, was like he tries to tell his story through his writing, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm really telling my story through all of my writing all the time. I might be writing in a way that like, I took a song at Berkeley called like hit songwriting, and things like that. So I'm thinking about things like it in that way, where it's like I'm more of like producing in a room for other people, when it's like really like I should be producing for myself and writing for myself and telling my story as authentically as possible. But it's a little different maybe for you, because like you don't want to really come into a room to tell your story over somebody else. But it's like you gotta almost like figure out how to help them tell their own story. Like if I was to hire you, it wouldn't be like, oh yeah, like let's come in with like, my 15-year-old guitar idea where I shred for like 30 seconds, and then like, then you come in and say something. It's like your goal will be to like flesh out like where is my story at currently, and how can you help me communicate that? And I imagine, is that kind of like how you go about, like how do you go about?
It's what I try to do when I'm like the main producer in the room. That is what I try to do. Can
you explain that better? Like how, like what is your process of like being in that? Like how do you approach it in that way?
So it really depends on the artist, and that's why some artists I love working with, because they know exactly what they want to do already, and it's like all I really need to do is worry about the music. You know what I mean? Like, all right, let's just make this song. Play me some references. Okay, let me hear what the chords are that you like. Okay, that's like that, 90s R&B chords, but you kind of like these type of drums over it. Okay, let me pull up some like drum break. Okay, let me do some chords that I know I heard you mention Stevie Wonder in the conversation. All right, let me try to do some Stevie Wonder-esque chords here, but let's modernize it a little bit. I'm only thinking about that. Some artists, you walk in, and I've learned a lot about this from my guy Benny Cassette, who's a legend, who I've gotten to work with a lot. He's really good at this, where he's really good at making the artist feel really comfortable first. He taught me about, all right, you should have a meeting with them before you even go in. You should like just have a day where you guys just hang out before you even start making music, so you can really understand who they are as a person. You know what I mean? If you really want to be a real producer like that, that's the process. Unfortunately, I feel like the music business sometimes, especially when you're early on, you
don't get that luxury.
You don't get that opportunity. It's like you're thrown in a room, and this is your chance. You better make a good song today, or else they're going to be like, that guy sucked, and then you're never going to work with him again.
You got to prove it without that.
Right. Hard to do when you're not at a level where someone's going to take the time to like go and just meet with you. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to do both in a 6-hour span. You try to spend the first few minutes trying to talk to them, and some people are shy, some people are quiet, some people don't want to give you what you need to help them.
Right.
And sometimes, at the end of the day, it's a two-way street. It's it's like any relationship. It's like both people have to want the same thing from it that day for it to work. You know what I mean? And if an artist isn't willing to kind of open up, if an artist isn't willing to say how they really feel, it's just like, what are we even doing here? You
might not get the best work.
You're not. Probably, I mean, there's been times where I'll start working on a track with an artist I first met, and I won't be getting any response from them. And I'm like, how are you feeling about this? And they'll be like, it's good. And I'm like, I don't believe you.
It feels like a very flat response.
I just don't believe you.
Like a polite response.
If you don't like where this is heading, tell me now before we spend the next 6 hours working on it, and then we just never talk again. You know what I mean? Like, let's just say it. You're not going to offend me. Like, I don't even know you. I don't even know what you like. I'm just guessing based on what you said, which is probably some fake version of how you really are. I'm trying to interpret that into what you might like, and I'm just doing it right now on the fly, on the spot, with 3 strangers in this room I've never met in my entire life. I'm doing one of the most vulnerable things. Like, I'm creating right in front of you, and you're not even telling me what you like.
Yeah.
How are we ever going to get anywhere today? We're not. Yeah. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to finish the song. We're going to say, this was fun. And then I'll text you the bounce, and we'll never speak again.
Yeah.
And we wasted an afternoon. We wasted an afternoon of our lives. I could have been making beats. I could have been doing almost anything else, and you could have been working with someone that you already know you like. Or you could have been at least telling me what you want to do.
Working towards getting the right work that you really are wanting to. But it's like maybe there's a self-conscious feeling
there. There is, and that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother issue of like, oh, well, I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe what I like isn't even good. Like, I don't even know what I like, you know? And for me, like, the higher I've risen in the musical class hierarchy, the people that I really like am excited about working with, they have that quality of they know what they like, and it's not a big deal if what I'm doing isn't what they like. Let's just flip it. Let's turn it into something you like. You know what I mean? It's not. And also because I feel like, you know, the other thing about that is if you're not making music every day, if you're not doing it all the time, you kind of just lose your kind of idea of what you even like and what's good. Like, I feel like artists that are kind of green and like are new to this, even producers and writers who are kind of new to this, they're unaware of how to behave in a studio environment. They're unaware of what it really takes to like create something great today. And they'll kind of just go with the flow. Whereas I feel like the best artists, the best producers, the best writers that I've been able to witness, they don't just go with the flow, you know what I mean? They really express when they like something, and they are, you know, you don't need to be a dick. You don't need to be like, this sucks, because that's a stupid way of thinking too, because just because you don't like it doesn't mean it sucks. It sucks.
It's just not what you're looking for.
There's been so many examples of songs that one artist hated it, and then another artist wrote on it and it became a huge song. Like, there's no sucking, there's no great. Yeah. There's no bad or there's no great. There's just like what fits at that time. Yeah. And you know, it's not an offense thing. I'm not going to get offended. I'm not going to feel bad. It's just like, you know, like let's just make this the best it can be. So, I feel like the best artists that I've come across are the ones that just, they know what they want. They're not going to like beat around the bush. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to be mean about it. They're not going to be like, I don't like this, or they're just going to be like, oh, I feel like we could simplify this, or let's try making the drums more like this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Thinking something more like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like because that's all it is. It's like it's a constant creative process where bouncing. You have to be bouncing stuff off each other. Yeah. You know what I mean? Bounce it here, bounce it here, bounce it here, bounce it here, and then you might land on something that neither of you could have made on your own. Uh-huh. But that's because we're communicating the whole time. Yeah. Like, what if the snare, different snare? Oh, you know, the hook could be better. Let's write a better hook. It's not like, this is cool. That is like my least favorite thing to hear. Like, I'd rather hear,
I don't like it.
Literally, yeah. I don't want to hear this is cool, because cool is like, this is cool is the worst thing we could do.
You can't do anything with that.
I'd rather make a song that people laugh at. That's like, what the fuck is this? This shit is terrible because it's so weird, or there's like, something about it that's just dumb.
Like Friday, Rebecca Black or something.
Yeah,
like,
I'd rather like make that.
I'd rather
make that than just make something that kind of is something that's like listenable. Yeah. That is like the worst thing to do. And I've definitely made a lot of songs like that. It's like, this is listenable. This is like, you know.
That's not what you're going for.
No. At the end of the day, like, to really make a lasting impression on the audience and on the people listening, for like, the most important thing for me right now is like making songs that are memorable in some way. There has to be something about it that, because I've been in so many meetings now playing songs for people. I've been in rooms where people are playing their songs for me, and I've noticed I've started to kind of take mental notes of, okay, what's getting the best reaction in rooms? When I'm playing my song, when I'm playing these 10 songs for all these A&Rs, or when I'm playing these, like, beats for these artists, which ones are standing out and seem to, every time this one, what is it about this one? It's like, it's like, there's something about it that I'm going to walk away from this session, I'm going to remember that beat. You know what I mean? I'm going to remember that hook because they said something crazy, or it was just so good, or, they did a key change, or they did something that is unorthodox. There was an unorthodox drum sound or something about it that you're going to, like, leave that day thinking about it. You know what I mean? And when I'm trying to make music now, I always try to have an element of that in there, where there's at least one thing about it that, I wasn't expecting that. And somebody might hate it, somebody might love it, but I'd rather somebody hate it or love it than just think it's, like, cool.
Right, to have something memorable.
Yeah.
You're making me think, like, 3 different things. My first thought was, like, and it's fascinating to me to not be a producer and see, like, the producer's mind at work, and you're kind of walking me through, like, how it's going in a real situation. It's like, I see how that could be stressful, because it's like, you're 24 years old.
Right.
You're in a room with a bunch of heads.
Yeah.
And then, like, somebody that's, like, paying money for you to be there.
Right.
And they're not really giving you something. So it's like you're having to do psychoanalyzations of these person, and they're not giving you anything.
While also just trying to make a beat.
Yeah, like while you're playing.
Which takes a lot of mental focus anyway.
Yeah.
Trying to make a track, trying to make a composition that's, like, sounds good and people want to listen to. That takes a lot of mental focus.
Yeah, to have fun in a stressful environment. It's like you got to, like, how can I bring myself back to my fun in this stressful moment where, like, I know that this guy's not telling me how he feels.
Right.
And then, like, I got these other people that I know are, like,
and they're just sitting there on their phone, like, kind of, like, looking, and I know, like, they're judging every little thing I do. Like, they're like, that snare sounds like shit. And like, the thoughts that go through the head are crazy. It's
he's probably like, this guy's fucking a giant.
Right.
I'm scared of him. He's fucking real good looking dude, and he's towering over me. So maybe that's why he's not getting anything.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I like to think I'm pretty, like, easy
kidding.
to talk to, but no, I mean, like, that's definitely true. I think. But to be honest with you, the like I said, the more I've been doing this, and the more, like, quote unquote better rooms I'm getting to, that happens to me less and less. Yeah. Also, I feel like I've found a lot of collaborators that I consistently work with now. I'm not necessarily always doing the new person every day thing. For a while, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I have, like, 5 to 10 people that I'm in touch with every day. We're constantly sending stuff back and forth. We're booking sessions together. You want to pull up on this session? You want to pull up on this? There's always, I would say, like, more than half the time I'm working with people that I know, and then they might introduce me to someone new, and then I know them, and then they introduce me to this person, then I know them, and then it builds on top of each other like that. I'm not necessarily, and I still do new sessions. I always say, like, I'll work with anybody once. Anybody. I don't care if they've done nothing. I don't care if they're the biggest producer in the world. I'll work with anyone one time, because you never know how somebody really is until you meet them. You don't know how, like, you can tell a lot about a person when you, like, talk to them, not necessarily by their talent level at the moment. The way they talk about music says a lot more than necessarily what they're creating right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's people, like, great example. My friend Luke Grieve, he's a UK producer. I met him over FaceTime. Our, like, publishers connected us, right? I met him over FaceTime. He told, at the time he had just started making music. Just started. He was so green. He barely knew about the business. He barely knew about anything. And at the time, like, I hadn't done a crazy amount, but I had, some placements. I had, like, gotten to be in some cool rooms. Like, I was a little bit ahead of him at the time, and, like, a couple of years older. But I met with him on FaceTime, and I was like, this kid's just smart. And, like, he has good taste in music, and, like, he's just a sweet kid, and, like, I like him. So I kept working with him, and now, he's produced a platinum song in the UK, Dave and Stormzy Clash, which is, anyone who's, like, a UK rap fan knows that song. That's a massive song. It's way bigger than my song that's big in the UK. That song is, like, even bigger. Huge song.
Platinum, yeah. Fun.
Yeah, he's gotten to work with, I won't say all the names because I don't want to embarrass him. I don't know if he wants people to know exactly what he's up to, but he's gotten to work with some household names. He's gotten to, you know, travel around the world making music, and he's doing incredibly well now. You know what I mean? And we're like best friends. Like, we're always going to hit each other up for stuff. And, you know, I could have been like, oh, this kid barely even makes music. Like,
wow.
I'm not going to work with him. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I need to be working with people that are better than me all the time. You know what I mean? But it's like, now someone could argue he's at a higher place than me.
That's
you know
a
what
lesson
I mean?
right there for sure. You know, like, not to overlook somebody, like, what's like the nursery, like, rhyme, don't judge the book by its
Exactly.
cover off the top, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
be willing to open up the cover and read a page or two, you know, and be like, oh, okay. You know, no, that's great, man, because then you will miss a lot of things. And I could definitely think of some moments in my life where, like, you know, I was just like, you know, this girl that I work with, like, all the time now, I did a video shoot with her, like, on the East Coast, and I was like, you know, for this agency I'm in over there, and, like, I remember thinking, like, after it was over, it's like, probably never going to see any of those people again. It's, like, on the East Coast, you know, like, whatever, and then just, like, but now, you know, it's funny because, like, I just was like, well, you know, I'll just whatever, we'll be friends with her and see, you know, what happens, be open for it. And then now it's like, we're working, like, the last gig I just did, I think the last 2 gigs I did out here, you know, I got flown to go work with her, and now we're, like, best friends, kind of, you know, I feel like she's, like, feels like one of the closest people I have in my group, because she's the girl I'm always singing stuff with all the time now. And yeah, it's like you said, it's like I literally did disregard her at first, because I was like, well, she's going to be over here, you know, like, I'm probably never going to see her again, you know?
Right.
And, like, that was, like, a logical thought, but it's, like, having that, like, well, I'm open to still be her friend, you know, she was cool, and I thought she was great and really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and for whatever reason, just, like, allowed myself to be, like, open to remaining friends, and I think I'm like, dude, thank God I did that, you know, because, like, it would have been way worse if then I was, like, working with her later, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, that was, like, the person that, like, I just, like, disregarded, you know, but, like, thankfully I didn't do that, and it's, like, now it's, like, more and more and more, you know, and it's just, like, yeah, you never know who you know, is going to turn into, like, something, like, real big, real quick, when maybe they're not right at that moment, so it's important to treat everybody kind of with, like, that level of respect, you know, and friendship, like, even if they're not, you know,
Everyone
they don't have a
like
huge
one
portfolio.
Song away, man.
Right.
Everybody is one song away from, like, the whole price changing for them. You know what I mean? The whole thing. Yeah. It's like everyone is one day. My life tomorrow, dude, I could wake up and my life could change.
It's a hit, yeah.
Could happen in 5 years too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or sometime in between or after that. I don't know.
Right.
And you don't know about that person either on the corner. You know what I mean? They're one song away. You don't know, who they've gotten to work with. You know, you don't know who they might meet in the future. You don't know how good they're going to get at what they do in the future. You don't know what room they're going to possibly bring you to. And you don't know how you could help them in the future, too. It's like, that's why it's just like, I wouldn't say just work with everyone, because work with everyone. Like, meet people and make your own judgments. Like, is this person smart? Are they, like, a good person? And do they really care about this? If the answer is yes, chances are, like, I'm not saying you gotta work with them every day, but just keep in touch. Like,
give it a shot. I like that you said it like that, like you'd work with anybody even once, because, like, I don't even really feel like I'm necessarily like that, and, like, I feel like I should be. Like, I get a little more, like, in my own bubble, you know, but, like, that's something I'm taking away from you in this is, like, you know, be more open to, like, work with anybody once.
You know, and,
like,
doesn't mean you have to ever do it again. Yeah. If you have a terrible time, you don't ever have to work with them again.
Right.
But at least you can check that off. You know, I don't really like that person's energy. Yeah.
Right.
Or it's like, this person, like, I don't know what he's gonna do for me.
Right.
But, like, instead of thinking like that, think like, well, maybe I can help this person. Or maybe, like, I don't know what he's gonna do right now, or, like, he might not have any songs that I think are super dope right now, but I met with him and there's something about him. I just think he's cool. Like, I think he has a great energy, or he played me that one beat and, like, I can tell, like, he's onto something. You know what I mean? It's just anything like that. Just keep it going. You know what I mean? Because there's been people that have done that with me. There's been people that met me when I wasn't shit. I was just like an intern at a studio, and, you know, now we're like peers. Now we're working together constantly. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's like, if they had just disregarded me and always seen me as just that intern at the studio, you know, we wouldn't work together. Yeah. And, you know, now we're getting songs coming out. Now we're getting placements together. I hate that word, placements, by the way. Records. We're getting records together. We're making songs together that are, you know, seeing the light of day. if he had just disregarded me, those songs wouldn't exist.
No.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying he wouldn't have been fine otherwise, and I wouldn't have been fine otherwise. Probably would have both had successful careers either way, but always better to just have more collaborators, have more people you can tap into, more people that are going to pull you into stuff. And, you know, I try to offer him stuff when I can, and he tries to offer me stuff when he can. You know what I mean? It's like, same thing with my boy Ryan, who I work with all the time, Ri-Fi. When I first met him, he was, you know, he had more connections than me, but he just thought I was dope, so he started inviting me. And now we're like super close collaborators. It's like, you know, these things, you never know where someone's going to go, and that's why it's always just the genuine relationships with people that aren't based on like a want or a need from something from them, usually are the ones that I feel like reward you the most. That's what I've found so far, you know.
I completely agree.
So that's just another thing I've learned, is just like, just work with anybody once. Like, who are you to say that like, oh, I don't need to work with him, I've done this and this, I'm better than that guy, like I have more clout than this guy, why would I need to work with him? It's like, bro, it's like it's not a good mindset to me. It's just like,
it's bitter, and it's like it just comes back to like, people want to work with, I think, people that like make them feel good.
Yeah.
You know, and if like that's the type of like spew that you have coming out, maybe not like in that moment, like everybody there is going to cancel you and delete you.
Right.
But I think these people are like, even if not consciously, they're subconsciously digesting your energy. And then over time, you know, like you're going to be in a room and somebody's be like, oh yeah, we got this person here. And then like, they might not even think about it. They'll be like, oh yeah, I think I don't have time for that today. You know, but like, why are they saying that? It's like, maybe they just didn't feel that great of a vibe from you when you were there last time, because you're complaining about like being a little too cool to work with so and so else, and then it just feels like for some reason they don't feel as inclined to come in to work with you anymore. You know, so it's like these little things, like people are sensitive, you know, and
it's true,
you know, and it's like,
especially in the music world, everyone's very sensitive. You know, we're all very sensitive. We pick up on energy, we pick up on what's going on with people. You know what I mean? We pick up on how someone's feeling towards us, or we might interpret it in a certain way, and it's really
the psychoanalysis factor. You know, it's like it's such a big factor, and it's like there's no class at Berkeley for like how to psychoanalyze people in the studio. You know, like there's no class on this stuff, and it's like, how do you get it? You really got to get out there and live it, and to a certain degree maybe have a natural gift to like listen and observe, but then like,
and you gotta know also how to read a room. You gotta know how to play your role. I mean, like I've said, I'm still happy just walking in a room and I'll just sit there and not say a fucking word and just play the guitar, because I understand that this room is all bigger than me. All these people in this room have done more than me. They're older than me. They've had more success. They've been around longer, and just the fact that I get to be in this room is awesome. I'm just gonna take this opportunity, whatever they want me to do. I'm not gonna overstep. I'm not gonna overstep and be like, oh, let me get on the computer. Oh yeah, no. The drum's gotta be like this. It's like, no.
Because then you won't get called back.
Exactly.
You know?
It's like, I'd rather be in the room for 2 years and not say a word about that, and then maybe one day they'll be like, hey, like, what do you think? It's like, oh, let me try this, and it's like, oh, that's dope. Now maybe you should. Oh, why don't you start like getting on the computer more? Why don't you start writing the song more? You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's because they've known me. It's their idea, exactly. You can't force people into something. And also, I also believe that if that was what I was supposed to be doing in the room at that time, that's what I'd be being asked to do.
Right.
Maybe all I'm supposed to do in this room is just play the guitar chords and shut up. Maybe that's all I actually have the ability to do in this room right now. Maybe I need to spend this time watching these people for a year before I even think about saying something. Because I've had times where I've been in rooms and I'll be like, oh, I don't like that lyric. Let me suggest a better lyric. And I'm with like these heavy hitters. And I'll suggest a lyric and they'll be like, what?
And then it's like...
And it's like dead silence.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the best lyric writer. But I'm like, oh, I'm in the room with these people. I should say my lyric.
Right.
Like, I learned quick, like, oh, I need to shut the fuck up before I talk myself out of this.
Even if your lyric was great...
Right,
like, and better than theirs.
You're not supposed
to be doing like that. A vibe thing. It's like the nerve of you saying something when nobody called and you're like, you know what, your lyric sucks, and it's like it has nothing to do with your lyric.
Yeah, the context of it is all wrong. I'm like the guy that is just lucky to be there, and if I start acting like I'm the fucking head honcho here, people are like, what the fuck is up with this guy? You know, so that's another one. It's like,
man, that's amazing, man, and it's like it just makes me think like, you know, there's anything that I've learned from already doing this interview with you is just like, what is special about Mark? Why is he crushing it so hard, even to this level? In my opinion, is your restraint muscles are very, they're in shape, they're active, you use them, you know how to, apply it in real life scenarios. And that's the thing that I see people, like, I don't want to like make names, but there's a friend of mine from Berkeley, he's got, a couple of songs. He's a really great pop singer, and he writes pop music, and he's collaborated with one of my best friends, and they have a song that, has got like millions of streams, and I was in that room, and kind of the same thing. I don't think I said a word like that whole time. I just was like there, and I felt like they were going back and forth, and it didn't seem like they needed anything from me. So I just kind of was there and absorbed it. I was like, I felt thankful to be in the room absorbing it, because then it became kind of like a hit song. But they're not even friends anymore. They hate each other now, and it's like, I think it's really the lead dude's fault. I don't want to say his name, but like, and it's sad because he's so incredibly gifted. He's a great singer. He's got perfect pitch, good looking dude. He plays guitar. He can write a good song. But it's like he doesn't have the energy, and almost like to the extreme, it's the opposite. Where it's like, I've been in a room with him with like a session for like, I remember this girl, she was at Berkeley, maybe you knew her, Elizabeth. She like had like a presidential scholarship. She like had like her freaking apartment paid for by Berkeley and stuff. And like, I'm in a session with this kid, my friend Josh, and then Elizabeth, and then, we're all writing a song for her. And then, like, I remember, like, I'll never forget, like, at the end of the session, he's like, oh, yeah, that one, that hook that I wrote. And we all kind of look at each other, because we all knew that Elizabeth wrote that hook.
Yeah.
And he tried to claim it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
that's the other thing about the business side.
We all looked at each other, and then I never worked with her again, and she was so gifted. I'm sad, because I feel like she probably automatically assumed, man, I don't, these people work with this guy, I don't trust any of them, and then it's like, that's another weird aspect. It's like, you almost got to be careful who you have around
with. For sure,
because like, he's gifted and he's got a hit song, but it's like, he is not that good of a person, so like, none of us really hang out with him anymore. And it's sad, because it's like, dude, he had the potential to really be, he still does, he's probably 26 now, it's like, he's not old, like he really could do something, but like, I don't think he's going to, because he doesn't have the restraint that I'm trying to say makes you special, is the thing that he is missing and needs desperately. And if he had that ability that you've somehow acquired or were bestowed on, or you just somehow, you worked it out, and now you fully understand how to apply it, it is exactly what he is missing. And if he had that, I think he'd be on top right now. But he doesn't have it. So it's like,
it happens.
I don't know. That's a special thing that you have. It's like, it's just like your ability to apply restraint.
Well, yeah, we all have our like gifts. You know what I mean? We all have our things that like we're like better at than others. You know what I mean? Like, he probably is a way better hook writer than me. He probably writes better hooks than me.
He's a great singer.
He's a way better singer than me. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I had that ability. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I think all these things we can all improve everything. You know what I mean? But
always,
I do think that a really good skill is just being able to read the room and just having like some restraint, like you said about.
He can't read a room.
Not necessarily. Yeah, that's really important. Like, I mean, also when it comes to the business end, like, I never make a fuss about the business. There's so many times where, like, I feel like there's been songs where I might not get my fair share exactly, or I might want more money right now for this, but to me, what's more valuable is I'd rather keep this relationship going and not be a headache.
Yeah.
And then, like, try to, like, get everything I can out of this one thing right now.
Actually, I should get, I think, maybe a few more percent.
Right. It's like, because at the end of the day, man, like, we're talking about pennies here.
Right.
Like, oh, if you have 15% versus 12, I mean, like, unless we're talking like this is an Adele song. This is her Adele's next single, and it's gonna get 1 billion streams guaranteed. That makes a difference. But like, if we're talking about like, a decent sized artist who they'll probably get 10 million streams, or something like that at best. Just let it go, man. Just let it go. Like, I'd rather get 5 more songs with this guy.
Yeah.
that'll lead to way more in the long run than a couple extra percents right now, because people really don't like headaches about business.
Nurturing the relationship first.
Yeah,
You know, it makes me think of like Ryan Tedder, and I keep coming back to that podcast, but the Ryan Tedder podcast, like the guy Ross that was interviewing, I guess he just knew Ryan Tedder well, and he's like, you know, I've heard from rooms that you've been in, like talking about Ryan, you were there and like you wrote, you know, some significant portion of the song, like whether it was like a hook or finish the bridge or something, and then he's like, you know, and like this guy Ross is just like, and then like you just left and you didn't sign a split sheet or anything, and everyone's just like, hey, did Ryan leave? You know? And he's like, I think Ryan left. And he's like, you know, and then just like that, and then like he started laughing on the podcast, and I'm like, I watched that podcast like months ago, and I remember like that moment like so clearly, and I'm like, wow, like that just makes so much sense why everybody's obsessed about this guy. He's like, he just can't help it, he's just shitting out hits,
ideas.
You know, and it's like he's not trying to like, oh, those are my cards, you know, like that was my section, you know, like don't forget I wrote that, everybody, you heard it over there, right? You heard I was my, and it's like, no, he just is like, he wants to come in and bless the song to make something magic, and he doesn't care about getting, you know, fully, you know, like every penny back to him, you know, and it's like, and that's why he's such an anomaly, because people like are talking about, like, wow, Ryan really must not care, you know,
the thing that I care about, the thing that's important to me is just my name on the song, the credit.
Right.
I don't care if like you feel like, you know, you want to put me as a writer, you want to put me as a producer, you want to say like, oh, Mark just played bass, okay, fine, but you gotta have my name on the song. If someone looks up the Genius lyrics and they look at the credits, I want them to see my name.
Damn.
That's what I care about.
We're going to just close out here at this point because we've been going strong for about an hour and a half. I'm sure Mark has probably sessions that he needs to go to as well today.
Yes.
But anyways, yeah, just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the show, and super excited for you. What do you got anything? Let me know some things that you got coming up that we could be excited about, and where can we find more of your music? You said you're gonna send me a little playlist.
Yeah, I think I texted to you. It's just like a playlist of my
so check that in
discography so far that I've worked on, songs I've produced, written on, played on.
We'll include that in the description.
Yeah, you can check that out. And then I'm really excited to work with some dope artists. I've been in the studio with Blast, who's, you know, amazing, legendary West Coast rapper at this point. And, you know, we work on some songs for him. We're going to have some stuff with him coming soon. I've been in the studio with Sid. She's amazing. I've been really excited for the stuff we're making. And hopefully you guys will be hearing some, you know, stuff from us soon. What else? Shout out Win. She's a rapper from Portland. She's an incredible rapper. I did a couple songs on her last project and working on the next one now. And then I'm just working on everything that my friends are working on. So that's just, you know, that's a whole nother can of worms. But those are kind of the main things I'm focused on at the moment. I'm really excited for the next year, man. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know there'll be some surprises and some unexpected events I'll be really happy about, and I'm just looking forward to seeing where else my journey takes me. And I really appreciate you having me on. This was my first interview ever, so
love it, man.
That was cool.
Sure won't be the last, dude. You're
that was cool.
You're a force to be reckoned with, man. 24 years old, and then you're gonna be, I don't know, I can't even imagine in 10 years like the type of shit you're gonna have your name on, dude.
Appreciate it, man.
Like fucking Mark Ronson of next decade or something.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. I'm working towards it.
Hell yeah, man. So let's do rapid fire here, just a couple more. All right, first thing that comes to mind, Berkeley.
Commonwealth. That was the street I lived on.
Right.
That was that. I lived on Commonwealth and Kenmore Square.
Love it.
Yeah, okay. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, good times. What was it 150?
Oh, I was in 150 at first, and then my second year I was in an apartment on Commonwealth.
925 was it?
I don't remember the address. 476 maybe. I don't remember the address, but yeah, I stayed in this studio apartment in Kenmore Square. I used to go to U Burger right across the street.
Hey.
It was I think it's closed now, but I used to love that burger. My friends Maddie and Jason live like in the same area, like across the street, so I used to hang out with them all the time in their place, and Yeah, that's the first thing I think of when I think of Berkeley.
Okay.
Yeah.
L.A.
L.A. Palm trees.
Palm trees.
I love the L.A. palm trees, man. That's like iconic.
It is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, driving down the street and
Yeah.
like having them on both sides, it feels like you're kind of going through a movie.
It's like a movie. Yeah, it's amazing.
It is a cool vibe.
Yeah.
All right, these are maybe a little less rapid fire, but
Okay.
that's okay. Just two more things.
Okay.
Most influential people, or maybe most influential moments of your career so far. Either one, you can do like one or two of those.
Wow. Okay, well, probably still one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me was my junior year of high school. I played guitar in my school musical, and there was a member of Guns N' Roses had a daughter at my high school, and he came up to me after, and he was like, "Hey man," he's like, "I see what you're doing." He's like, "You're really talented, and I think you're like, I'm watching you." He's like, let me give you my email, whatever. And
High school shit.
yeah, it was cool, and then we kind of kept in touch, and he's just always been, and like, he brought me to some shows, he brought me to some Guns N' Roses shows, and brought me to some, like kind of like old school rocker events he was going to, and just kind of introduced me to a bunch of people, and just was always like a huge fan of me and like big supporter of me. And like I feel like that was one of the moments where even like my parents started to kind of get it, like, okay, like he actually like has some talent, he actually knows what he's doing, like there's something here.
That's
and
a big
like
moment.
I've always leaned on that moment when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling like, oh, maybe I can't do this, or maybe like some people are better than me, or maybe I'm not good enough. I always lean on that moment because if someone like that could say something to me and like be that for me, like, and like say that, it means I have something to offer. So
Yeah.
it's like I just have to, it helps me it keeps me going. You know what I mean?
Just say that. He wouldn't just say that for no reason.
No, absolutely not.
A guy like that,
Yeah, it keeps me going sometimes.
Yeah, it should.
It does. So I would say that, and just being able to like, call him once in a while and just like see what's up, it's just like it's an honor. So that's definitely one of my like biggest moments, and like that influences me like every day for sure.
That's huge, man. Yeah, I think that definitely it does help to have those moments, because it's like as a human being, we're all going to go through it, and
Yes.
to have like those things to look back on is a huge part of it. So last question.
Okay.
If there's anybody that you want to work with,
Yeah.
who is it?
Drake.
Drake. Okay.
Drake is my
Manifesting
number
it.
one. Drake is my number one, like, white whale. He is my North Star. I love so many artists, and there's a bunch of artists that I would love to work with. My number one artist to work with is Drake.
Did you know Grace Kinsler at Berkeley?
No.
Dude, I went street performing with her a couple times. I saw recently after she was on American Idol, Drake followed her.
That's dope.
So I don't know, man. It's definitely, it's in the cards. It's starting to, we're getting more and more mutual friends these days as we make our way forward, it
Yeah,
seems
for
like.
sure.
So I'm sure it'll just be a matter of time.
That's my one, man. I've said that for a while. That's my one. That's the one that's the one.
Oh yeah. I see it happening for you, man. And
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
Hell yeah, man. Well, Mark Raggio, everybody. Definitely check out the description. We're going to have some goodies from Mark on here. And thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, man.
All right. It's a fucking wrap, bitches.
Dope, bro.
No worries.
I really
That was
appreciate you having me.
And that is a wrap for this episode of On the Road with David Kahn. Be sure to check the description for a playlist of Mark's tunes. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.